Hi, Mark Robertson back here talking to you about my book, Carrying Lawn Chairs, Youth Sports, and Other Parental Mindsets. It's divided into two parts. We've talked about the first part, basically deals with parents and youth sports, and I'm in the second part. I deal with a number of other things related to the parent child dynamic and cover a wide range of topics, and they can be very controversial, and you may disagree with them. I'm not a parental guru. I'm just throwing things out there, seeing what the parents can do with it. They might take it and run with it or use their interpretation of it. I realize things are interpreted differently by nearly everyone. And so it's kind of a risk putting this stuff out there. But I really think there are many situations these days. The parent child dynamic has problems. And parenting is not easy. All parents make mistakes, and it will continue to happen. And a lot of times they're major mistakes. So, and nearly all parents are trying their best. I realize there are some situations where they don't care, but most parents want what is good for their kids, and we know that. And I'm just bringing up some things that I've observed. I'm, like I say, not an expert. I don't have a degree in this, but I have written a book, Carrying Lawn Chairs, what I've noticed in youth sports when I was involved with it a lot, and various other things just by observing. And today we're going to talk about a topic that is very important. It's discipline. Now, the word discipline, what does that mean? Obviously, it means to have some control of yourself. Now, this may be a paradox because I've said, well, kids need to play, to be run free, to be who they are, to have fun, to have authentic play. Doesn't discipline get in the way of this? Well, of course you need discipline. You need boundaries. Parents need to teach their kids how to behave, how to do basic things, take care of themselves, keep their house clean, make their bed, do things like that. There are everyday things they need to do in life. And now, discipline, most parents, it's a tough world. And often when they discipline, they get angry. They're angry at the same time that they're disciplining. I think that is ineffective. It's not good to be angry at your kids when you're disciplining. You can be stern, you can be tough, but don't get angry. Don't cut them down. Don't tear down to build up. And it's a fine line there. Yes, you have to be strong and tough. And kids know parents aren't perfect, and sometimes you might go overboard. But ideally, discipline can be tough. You teach kids how to live life, how to do things, how to do their duties, how to live in society, and how to do certain things. But the anger shouldn't have a place in discipline. And what about spanking? Is spanking good? In the Bible, spare the rod, ruin the child. So that's not the exact verse, but I have it written in my book there. But anyway, I don't think spanking is good because nearly all the time parents spank, they're angry. I may be wrong, but I don't think it's basically if you just change the word spanking to hitting, that doesn't sound right either. So there can be discipline and there's all the kinds of disciplines you hear about, the timeouts and all this kind of thing. I don't know. I'm not an expert on that, but I don't think spanking is the way to go. Caring for the child. If the parent can put across to the child that they care for them, they want what's best for them, they can make them do certain things that they have to do. Yes, we've talked about some children are not great in school, myself included. It's tough for them. So if you just say, well, you got to do your homework better, you got to do this, you got to do all that. Well, yes, sometimes you're going against their grain. It may not even be right to do. Kids learn in different ways, as we've talked about. So that has to be considered as well. It's not just, you got to work harder. You got to do all this. You got to do all that. And sometimes that's important, and sometimes that is necessary. And sometimes it's proper. Like I said, every child is different. They can be disciplined differently as far as things like school and things like that. And but the key thing is to encourage kids. Encouragement is very important. It's tough. It's tough to go to school. School these days, we've talked about public schooling. I have a lot of problems with that as well. But the real situation is many kids are in public schools and they need encouragement from parents because there's so much peer pressure. There's so much craziness in school these days. They took prayer out of schools and replaced it with birth control. And so that shows you right there that it's a problem. But realistically, many kids are in public schools and they need encouragement from parents. As far as spanking, there was this lady, Alice Miller. She did a lot of studies on that and in societies where spanking was a major part of it, and she really is heavily critical of it. Even like in Germany and things like that, the craziness there. These kids, it was just a normal part of raising families to spank kids brutally. I mean, Hitler was brutalized by his dad, his alcoholic, out of control dad, virtually daily. Now, obviously, not every child who is abused by an alcoholic father is going to turn out to be a Hitler. And I'm not even necessarily using that as an excuse, but it's not good. It just disorients the child to spank and beat and daily and things like this. So I am just not for that way of disciplining. Disciplining has to be done out of love, and the child has to get the idea or have the knowing that the parent, even though it may not be pleasant, the parent is doing their disciplining out of love. And that has to come across to the child. You know, you hear these people say, well, you can't be friends with your kids. Well, that's probably true. But, you know, you have to care for them, and the child has to know that you do care for them. The child wants the parents' love, especially very young children. I mean, they just naturally want the parents' love. And so many times it's disrupted by parents who, yes, are under a lot of stress, but they don't put the kids first. And the kids can sense this right away. And it's not easy. Life is tough, financial, every other way. But the kids have to be put first. They have to be cared for. And negative words, they just tear down, and they're little like daggers going into the child. And it's not good to use negative talk. Yes, like we've said, times parents have to be tough and no nonsense, and you got to do this, you got to clean your room, you got to help with the dishes, you got to take out the trash, you got to live life, you got to learn how to live in society, you got to be responsible when you grow up to pay bills and things like this. But parents need to watch their words, and they have to be caring and encouraging. And, you know, we talk about pushing children. Is it good to push kids? Well, again, the right motivation has to be in place. We've talked about youth sports. Why do parents so push kids into youth sports? Is it because they want them to be happy and enjoy themselves? Or is it because they're looking down the road, they might be a baseball player in the major leagues and that'll be superstars and all this other stuff? So yes, if a child is taking a musical instrument, yes, they need to be pushed and rigorous. It's tough to learn a musical instrument, but things like that are good. Discipline is good for kids. And like I say, kids are different, so some may adapt faster than others, and some may not be into musical instruments. But if you're going to play a musical instrument, there's nothing wrong with pushing a kid to learn how to do it properly, and they will enjoy it throughout their lives. So discipline is good for everyone, including myself. I sometimes forget that, but once again, hitting, yelling, not the answers. Verbal abuse, not the answers. Tearing down to build up, definitely not the answer. It doesn't work. You tell someone they're never going to amount to anything, you're lazy, you're all this other stuff in hopes that will turn them around. Doesn't work, makes it worse. And those are scars that will stay with them the rest of their lives. So encourage your kids. All kids are wonderful. They're born beautiful. Yes, they're empty vessels, and there's various ideas on if kids are born good or bad. I actually think they're born good, and they need to be encouraged and nurtured. And you have nurture and nature and all those arguments going back and forth. But you know, whatever it is, encouraging kids is good, no matter what the actual science of the situation is. So encourage kids, love kids, show them that you care. Yes, you'll make mistakes. Parents always make mistakes. Some of them might be some real doozies, and some of them might even have lasting, long-term negative effects. But keep trying. Parents, it's worth it. And love your kids and encourage your kids. Thank you. And we will talk to you next time. Take care.